do you remember the case of Amir Locke in Minneapolis? This was the no-knock raid that we talked about in February.
Where he had the gun under the blanket?
Right. So Minneapolis police conducted a no-knock raid on this apartment looking for a murder suspect. Locke was not the suspect, but he was on the couch in that apartment. He emerged from under a blanket with a gun in his hand, and police shot him dead. Now, based on the information available at the time, including one angle of body cam footage that the Minneapolis Police Department had released, it was our opinion, tell me if I'm misrepresenting you, but I think generally we thought that was a bad shoot. And I still have some criticisms for the Minneapolis PD on this one, but more information has come out. And it's not quite as clear-cut as some of the initial evidence made it look.
It never is it?
Yeah, I should probably learn my lesson in that way. Until you see all the angles and all the information, I still actually think that this is mostly a bad move by the Minneapolis PD, but it is more complicated than they initially disclosed. So the officers have officially been cleared of wrongdoing after investigation based on some facts, at least in part, not originally available. So firstly, as we'll get to, Locke, according to both body cam footage and testimony from the officers, raised his head and looked at officers before going to his gun. So he kind of peeks over the couch, sees police, ducks back under the couch in the blanket, and goes and gets a gun, which I guess was somewhere under the blanket or somewhere within arm's reach there. Now, Locke also, because we didn't know last time we visited this story, Amir Locke was not on the warrant. We know that the Minneapolis PD were doing a no-knock raid looking for a murder suspect, but who was the murder suspect?
Who was the murder suspect?
And did Locke have a relationship to the murder suspect? It has since been disclosed that it was Locke's cousin who's been arrested. So,
were they living in the same domicile?
I don't know if this was his cousin's apartment.
But they did this on 5 different apartments, right?
I think it was 3, but it was multiple apartments in the same building. But his cousin, Locke's cousin, was 17-year-old Mecky Camden Speed, arrested in connection with the murder. So there were 4 officers who raided the apartment, the one who went through the kitchen and could see directly into the living room and saw Locke raise his head from the couch and look in the direction of the SWAT team's entry. Then Locke ducked behind the couch and under the blanket where he retrieved a gun. Now, as part of the case file, 2 more angles of body cam footage were released. These are the first 2 officers to enter the apartment. The first officer is the one I mentioned who goes through the kitchen there. It doesn't give us as much. It doesn't give us much more to see that we weren't able to see before. The second angle briefly shows some movement that may be Locke's head peeping over the couch before ducking under the covers to grab the gun. These are the new angles that have been recently released.
Police search warrant! Police search warrant!
So, moving through the kitchen here.
Moving! Get on the ground! Dude, get on the fucking ground! God.
Now this one I'll slow down.
Police search warrant! Let me see your hands! 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 Hands!
So as far as I gather, this is what they're talking about. This peek here and then duck back down and goes and grabs a gun, I think is what they're referencing. It's awfully hard to tell in the footage. I don't necessarily find the footage very conclusive.
I don't know, man. I don't know how I would react if this happened while I was sleeping.
Well, see, that's why I'm still not fully convinced. And I actually am surprised there have been no charges for the shooting officer, given the Minneapolis. Even Keith Ellison signed off on not charging the officer who shot, which sort of shocks me. Not that I understand there are split-second decisions and things, but I would think an ideologically driven prosecutor like Keith Ellison would surely have his way with this. But yeah, to your point, I'm still not totally convinced, and I have questions for the Minneapolis PD. So if Locke looked and saw them, as I think we can see in the footage there, that is still a split second in the dark.
Yeah.
And if I see people busting through my door unannounced at night, I'm also going to go for a gun, even if I see them doing it. Actually, me seeing them doing it is probably going to prompt me to go get the gun.
Yeah, it would take you a second to realize what the hell is going on.
The only counter I have to say for that is he probably had some knowledge that police interaction was coming because of his connection to his cousin. He had to know. So I don't know that it's quite the same surprise, but still, if you're surprised at night, a lot of reasonable people will grab a gun in defense of their home, not knowing who's busting open their door.
Right.
Also, none of this explains why Minneapolis PD originally lied and said they announced themselves before entry. That was their original claim. We told them Minneapolis PD is here before we busted through the door, or unlocked the door because they had the keys. They clearly didn't. They unlocked the door, popped it open, and then said, police, police.
Police, right.
Point you brought up, it also doesn't explain why Minneapolis PD raided several apartments, including this one, and also, as we discussed last time, didn't get their murder suspect until a week later. They raided at least 3 apartments simultaneously and didn't get their guy, which tells me you probably didn't have good information about the apartments that you're raiding through this no-knock warrant. The arrest of the cousin, as I mentioned, does likely mean that Locke knew something about this murder and about potential police involvement, and he probably wasn't totally surprised to see the police. But I don't think that that makes the police lies or the imprecision any better. Our criticism of it at the time was if you're going to no-knock, you better know exactly who's on the other side of the door. Minneapolis PD in this case did not just by the fact that their guy wasn't in this apartment, but their guy, again, wasn't in any of the apartments that they raided simultaneously. So they didn't know exactly where he was. And just as a matter of principle, I think if you start busting down doors with uncertainty, bad outcomes like this one are pretty much inevitable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to circle back on it because it is a little more complicated than Locke was wrong place, wrong time, and got killed by the police.
I mean, hardly.
He had an association, and that's part of the case.
But you have to assume when you're doing these that there are going to be other bystanders related to the suspect.
Well,
in
that's
some of these locales.
If you're gonna no-knock, it's like you got to know, 1, your guy's in there, and 2, who else is in there.
Yeah.
And if it's a total surprise to see Locke in there, I don't know that you actually did your scouting thoroughly. But I suppose someone with more experience in police tactics and operations could inform me why maybe that's not correct. But I just wanted to come back to the story because there are additional facts that we weren't aware of when we originally discussed. Though I don't know that it changes a lot of my conclusions. I'm shocked that, well, I guess as a matter of law and as a matter of philosophy, they're different things. It's possible that this is totally square with the law, even if it is philosophically flawed. But I can't believe that Keith Ellison is on the more pro-police side in this case. I feel like I have to be missing something for that reason.
We must be missing something if he is, yeah. Also, where's the media coverage on this?
Yeah. Not that I want to be pro-police either. It's just the principles at stake, you know?
They must know something we don't.
Yeah. I don't know. But that's where the story is, and that's where it'll end because they're not going to charge that cop.